Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to check out another Schleich figure, another brand new 2023 Schleich figure, one that is like the only dinosaur so far that's out that I didn't review quite yet, because it's not like, your standard usual sort of dinosaur. It was kind of something I wasn't entirely sure if I was even going to purchase. It recently popped up on Amazon for a pretty cheap price, so I thought, what the heck, I might as well grab one. But we've got the Shadow Raptor, and it's a very interesting figure. Obviously, it's part of their mythical creatures line, so it's not any type of legitimate real species of dinosaur, but it's pretty cool to see Schleich kind of expanding into mythical dinosaurs as well. You see a lot of mythical creatures in this line, but you don't really see dinosaurs. And we have seen some sort of mythical dinosaurs in the past from Safari Ltd, but they very briefly released two, which was a T-Rex and a Triceratops, and then they didn't release anymore. So it's pretty cool to see Schleich kind of picking up and adding some to their line, and it's a very, very interesting one, that is for sure. But you can see the box art actually looks pretty cool, and this is something we don't get very often when it comes to Schleich dinosaurs is box art, because that's usually just the dinosaur itself. But when it comes to these fantasy figures, you usually get box art, it seems. But here on the back you can see a few other figures that are in this line, all of which I think look really cool. Like, I'm actually a pretty big fan of these fantasy figures from Schleich. I just don't really ever buy them because I have so many figures already that I'm more concerned with that I already collect. But if, I was a clean slate and I didn't really have a whole lot of stuff that I was already trying to collect, I'd probably be interested in these as well. But very, very cool, so let's pop it out of the box and check it out. So here is our mythical raptor, our Shadow Raptor, and we can get a look at it from the other side because this is the side that you couldn't really see due to the box. And you can see again how different and how unique it looks, but also how cool it looks. I think it does have a really neat visual to it. Definitely a very cool looking version of a obviously exaggerated, non-realistic version, fictional version I should say, of a raptor, but it's pretty well done as a whole. Schleich doesn't do a bad job on these mythical figures. Again, that is for sure. I actually feel like they put more effort into these than they do for the actual mainline dinosaurs, which is kind of sad to say. Definitely excited to take a closer look at this, so let's jump to it right now. Starting up here at the head sculpt of our Shadow Raptor, you can see some okay looking skin texture. Nothing, over the top, but it looks pretty cool. We have almost a JP3 sort of crest right there. You can also see kind of like some ridges leading off of the top of the eye area for the raptor. We have a really cool looking red eye, and I think that stands out nicely because of the dark tones used on the face. And again, the fact that we don't have a pupil or anything gives it a really evil sort of a look. I think it looks a little cooler over here. You could just see it a little better, but the red eye without a pupil definitely gives it a very evil look, which is neat. But the head sculpt, it looks okay again as a whole. You can see the mouth is sculpted in an open position. We don't have an articulated jaw, which is something you do usually see from Schleich, but I don't know if they do that often in the mythical creatures line because, again, I don't usually buy these. The teeth look kind of like your classic Schleich teeth, where they're sort of bulkier and a little bit goofy looking. I don't think they look terrible over here. I think they actually look a little better over here, but you can see the paintwork isn't that great. It's kind of inconsistent, and it's more like a dry brushing over the teeth rather than actually painting them out carefully. We do have a very nicely sculpted tongue, though, on the inside of the mouth with a very dark tone of color for that tongue, which looks really nice, kind of a glossy look as well to the tongue. And that, dark reddish tone runs up there on the inside of the mouth as well, which is nice to see. Can't really get in there to see the detail too well, especially with it being so dark, but it looks okay. We also begin to have these very weird kind of almost translucent, but in a purplish tone, ridges and kind of like an armored sort of a look leading along the top of the raptor. And that is definitely something that screams, fantasy figure from Schleich, because you see this kind of stuff a lot when it comes to this line. And you can see it looks pretty cool. There's some okay looking detail to it, but not a whole lot. But the fact that it has that kind of translucent sort of a look really helps that area to stand out. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I think it looks okay again for what it is. As you lead down into the neck, you can see we actually have some really nice looking skin texture and skin detail. You can see all sorts of wrinkling and creasing and just skin movement shown there, which looks really cool. You can also see actually leading up into the lower jaw, you can see how we have the black, but you can see it lead out to a light gray with a really smooth transition. And I do like the subtle differences in color on the figure. I think that is a very nice touch. And you'll see that as you move through the figure, you'll see like blackish tones, but you'll also see variations of grays. As you lead down here into the arm, you can see some muscle definition. You can see another kind of area of ridges leading off of the back of the elbow, also painted with a purplish tone. As you lead out into the arms, you can see the hand sculpt looks okay. The fingers are all kind of held together. The nails are painted, but they aren't looking that great. They look okay, a little sloppy, but the nails look kind of goofy in general, which is, kind of common when it comes to the Schleich brand, but not terrible. Again, they don't look bad, they just look a little goofy like a lot of the figures do, but considering they're made for kids, it makes sense. They're not going to give it really sharp nails so kids hurt themselves. That's just an obvious case of what Schleich would be kind of doing when it comes to their approach. You don't want to make it unsafe for children. As you lead back here into the stomach region, you can see some more nice looking skin detail again with the skin stretching off of the leg, kind of skin wrinkling back there behind the arm, as well as some nice looking skin texture in general. As you lead back here, you do have some injuries here, some slices, and I like that they painted the slices with a purplish tone. So it would appear as even though we have the purplish tone throughout, either when it heals, it has kind of a purplish look to the skin, or maybe it's just got purplish blood. I don't know. But it looks really cool. Definitely like that addition to the figure. As you move down, you have some nice muscle definition. Not a whole lot as far as muscle definition in the calf, but you do have some nice muscle definition in the thigh. You can see the kneecap right there. Nice bend in the knee. Again, we transition to the grayish tones, but we are transitioning back to a blackish tone for the foot. You can see more ridges leading off of the back of the leg. As you lead down into the foot, you've got that sickle claw, and the nails look a little better, I think, on the feet than they do on the hands. Still not great, but not bad either. And we do have dew claws on the figure, which is interesting. And then as you lead up here into the tail, you continue to have really nice looking skin detail, kind of creasing and stuff leading along because the tail's curved in this direction. You can see that we transitioned, though, from that translucent sort of a purplish ridge-like look to a darker purple without that translucent look leading along the tail, all the way out to almost like a stinger here on the tail, giving it kind of like a scorpion sort of a look, which is pretty cool. Definitely a very interesting idea. And you can see again on this side, the head is facing away from us now. So if we look at it straight from the side, you can see the head faces away. As the raptor's turning the opposite way, you can see some more nice looking detailing. As you lead down the course of the neck and down into the throat, we can see more purplish tones in the throat here of the raptor. The arm is almost planted on this side, but I think the fingers are touching, or at least the fingernails are touching, and that kind of is what helps to hold the figure up. You can see more of those ridges leading off of the back of the elbow. I like that as you lead down into the hands, you transition to a light gray for the hands, but as you lead down from the legs, you have a light gray that transitions into a black for the feet, which is pretty cool. Again, kind of switching it up there. But you can see the foot sculpt does actually look really quite nice over here on this side as well. No actual paint for the nails, but that's because the entire foot is black, so I guess we're just meant to believe that the nails would be black then, so it all kind of meshes together. The detailing of the stomach looks okay again, and as we lead out, you can see the tail looks pretty cool. It curves away from us again as we lead out into that, kind of stinger-like tip. And then if we look at the underside, we have that purplish tone leading along the entire underside of the figure, and that as well looks pretty cool. So I would say it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, that's for sure, but if you are into fantasy sort of exaggerated style dinosaurs, it might be something that you potentially would enjoy. Now, as a whole, the figure's kind of small, shockingly small. For a length from the tail to the snout, you're looking at about 5¼ inches, or a little over 13, maybe approaching 13.5 centimeters, but not quite there. It, of course, would be a little longer if the body wasn't curved in this direction, but it is what it is. So that is the length. As far as a height goes, though, you're looking at almost 3¾ inches or almost 9.5 centimeters, but not quite there. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our Schleich Shadow Raptor. And you can see, again, exactly as I was saying, it's not absolutely huge. It's not very large at all. It's not super tiny, but it's definitely on the smaller side when it comes to a Schleich release. However, here we have a comparison with another raptor from Schleich. Obviously, this one's not meant to be a fantasy-style version of a raptor, but also not an accurate version, but then again, it is Schleich. We don't really see accuracy there very often. But again, the figure you can see is very similar in size to what a usual Schleich Raptor would be. So if you do have this figure, that should definitely help to give you an idea roughly of the size of the Shadow Raptor, as they aren't far off in size. And continuing to show you that, again, here is another Schleich Raptor, very different style Raptor than the Shadow Raptor, but you can see, again, pretty similar in size as a whole. So if you do already have some Schleich Raptors in your collection, you're probably going to have a pretty good idea of the size of this Shadow Raptor already. And then for one final comparison, we have a Mattel Velociraptor. So just to kind of iron out the size, again, you can see they're pretty similar in size. The Mattel Raptor might be slightly longer, but very, very similar in size as a whole. So I would like to think at some point you've probably seen a Mattel Velociraptor somewhere, so you should have a pretty good idea, I think, of a size of the Shadow Raptor. So this brand new 2023 Schleich Shadow Raptor is pretty cool. Again, it's not the most amazing figure Schleich has ever released, but I didn't expect that coming into this. I expected some kind of a weird, almost like if Jurassic Park happened on an alien planet sort of raptor, and that's exactly what I got, because I feel like it has elements of Jurassic Park to it, but obviously with a very exaggerated fantasy style. Like the general appearance of the Raptor definitely has that kind of JP sort of look with those almost Jurassic Park 3 kind of crests on the face, and then the skin textured look on top of that, the arms and everything look very Jurassic Parkish, I would say. So it does have elements of a JP style Raptor, but obviously very exaggerated, very enhanced maybe, I guess you could say, to give it that kind of fantasy style or alien-like look, because we have those very weird sort of translucent kind of ridges and kind of an armored sort of look running along the back, and then you have almost a scorpion-like tail, almost like a Scorpius Rex type tail there out on the end of the tail of the figure, and then ridges just showing up in the back of the legs, the back of the elbow and everything. So there are some very interesting aspects to the figure as a whole, but I think it looks really cool. I think the coloration that they've chosen for it looks nice with the darker tones and those light purplish tones running along the back. It really does stand out and play off of each other very nicely. I'm also a big fan of the red eye on the figure, because if you're going to go, and create a figure like this, you might as well make it as weird as possible. And the red eye without a black pupil and everything does look really cool. But there is, of course, kind of like some sloppiness if you look at the mouth. The teeth don't look great. The mouth itself, as far as the teeth being painted, isn't very good. It's kind of sloppy, and the nails being painted is a little sloppy on the hands. But outside of that, again, it's definitely a pretty cool figure, and if you are into this type of thing, I would recommend picking it up, because it's only like $13, and it's still a pretty neat looking version of an almost alien-like raptor. So if you are interested, I will include a link in the description to Amazon.com where I purchased mine, so head on over there, grab yourself this Shadow Raptor, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.